Hey, what's up guys? In this video I wanted to talk about a productivity technique that I made, which is more of like a long-term technique which I called zone productivity. Now this technique is something I created on my own with inspiration from some other YouTubers. So there's this person named Iman Gadzhi who has this monk mode protocol, which is where he goes super intense on his work, and I realized why not do that but also with other levels of intensity, which is basically what zone productivity is all about. Basically, in zone productivity, what you do is you have 3 zones, and if you want, you can actually create more zones. And in each of these zones, you have a different set of rules and restrictions on what you can do during those times. The first zone is the light zone, and ideally you would be spending I think about 6 weeks to 8 weeks in this zone. And it's the zone where you have the least amount of restrictions, but you still focus on some basic tasks. The second zone is the mid zone, and if you really want to achieve your goals and want to work super hard, you'd probably just spend about 24 to 26 weeks in this zone and would spend the rest of the time in monk mode, which lasts about maybe 22 weeks if you really want to achieve your goals. I think for a normal person, even 4 weeks in monk mode will be good, and you can bump that up to 8 if you really have some goals you want to achieve. But if you want to go super extreme, monk mode for 20 to 24 weeks will honestly be game changing, but it'll also be very tiring. So mid zone is the zone where you're getting a good amount of work, but you're also getting a decent amount of rest. So it's not an amount that pushes you so much to the limit and gets you working at your maximum efficiency, but you're still at your 70 to 80% efficiency. Monk mode is the final zone that really pushes you to the limit, and there are a lot of restrictions in monk mode, and the goal of monk mode is not balance. So that's what you need to understand. The goal of monk mode is get you closer to whatever you want to achieve. Now if you're not used to working for long intense periods, I would recommend keeping the monk mode weeks a bit short at start. So maybe just start with 4 weeks and try doing 1 week whenever you need to, and just see how it goes, because it's really taxing. You'll understand why it's taxing towards the later part of this video, but yeah, it's just really taxing. But if you're super driven, if you spend 20 plus weeks in monk mode, there's almost nothing stopping you from smashing your goals this year. Now the values for the weeks I included is completely random, so feel free to change it. I created this technique so that it's as customizable as possible. Alright, now let's begin with the 3 zones. The first zone is light zone, and in the light zone, it's basically your rest zone, and it's a zone where you're doing a very low amount of work, but you still try to meet the minimum requirement, and your main focus is just rest. You still try to meet the minimum requirement in terms of work, but your main focus is rest. Now as for the rules for this zone, I wouldn't recommend much, but what is an absolute must is at least 10 minutes of meditation a day, and at least 30 minutes of exercise every 4 days, and also meet a friend and socialize every day. I know it seems like a drag that you have to meditate and exercise even when it's supposed to be rest, but honestly it's just 40 minutes, and if you can't spare 40 minutes of your day, that just proves you're wasting your time. And the reason why I include socialize is because when you're resting, it's so easy for you to just start scrolling on Instagram or something and just spend all your time there. So if you're socializing, there's a much lesser chance for you to do that, and it actually keeps you much better rested. That's it. In the light zone, your main focus is mental recovery, and I would recommend using the light zone for not more than 8 weeks, because if you use it for more than 8 weeks, it could easily encourage bad habit, because you're drastically reducing the amount of work you do, so you rest, but that could get you used to not doing much work. So I would highly recommend you to add more rules in this zone. So for example, it's probably quite unproductive to play video games for 3 hours and call that rest, because though you are getting some amount of utility from it, let's say you play video games for 1 hour, go talk to your friends for 1 hour, and maybe play a sport for 1 hour, you're gonna feel much better rested. So maybe put restrictions on certain addictions you have, maybe you're used to playing 6 hours of video games, but maybe cut that down to 2 hours during your light zones or something like that. That way you can actually spend more time in a variety of things that make you feel more rested. Alright, now the mid zone. So the mid zone is the zone where you're still trying to get as much work done as possible, but you're still living quite a balanced lifestyle. Now I'm guessing for most people you'd probably spend most of your time in the mid zone, but if you really like want to go hard, you would probably spend more time in monk mode. Now, as for the rules of this zone, I would recommend 10 minutes of meditation, 30 minutes of exercise every single day, 8 hours of sleep, along with a goal-specific rule. What I mean by a goal-specific rule is an actionable step that will bring you towards your goal. Let's say you're a YouTuber and your goal is to hit like 100k subs or something. Your actionable step might be to like produce 2 videos every week. Or if you're like a student like me, maybe your goal is to study at least 4 hours every day or something like that. As for 8 hours of sleep, this is a complete non-negotiable because you feel like crap if you undersleep. Like bad sleep is so bad just for your like mental and physical well-being. You feel like really bad when you don't get a good amount of sleep. So good sleep will help you be much more productive during your waking hours and will also improve your mood greatly. Alright, now the last zone, monk mode. Now, I'll be honest, even if you're doing monk mode for like 4 weeks in a year, that's still like really good because I think most people don't even go like that intense at their work for even 1 week. So like if you want to get a feel for what monk mode is like, it's honestly like having your final exams in like one day. So basically back to back to back exams, right? And you're preparing so hard, you're so focused on those exams. So that's honestly what monk mode is like, but you're doing it outside of when you have exams. Now, if you really want to go hard on like your goals, I would recommend like 12 plus weeks of monk mode, but do keep in mind that you could burn out and you have to like make sure you're maybe putting a bit of light zone days in between your like monk mode sprints. That said, here are the rules I'd recommend. 20 minutes of meditation a day, at least 20 minutes of exercise every single day, no video games, no social media, no TV shows, no movies, wake up before 7 a.m., 8 hours of sleep, and a goal specific rule that's harder than mid zone. Now yes, in this zone you do have to like cut a lot of things that give you like pleasure. That's exactly why it's really hard to stay in this zone for too long. Your focus in this zone is to get as much work done as possible, not pleasure, which is something you should remember if you're using this zone. It's more of a tool to get as much work done as possible, not like for balance. Now you might say it's okay to like play 1 hour of video games or 1 hour of social media, but again, the goal of this zone is to maximize the amount of work you're doing, right? If you don't want to maximize the amount of work you're doing, just stay in mid zone. That's totally fine. Nothing like to feel bad about. But if you really want to maximize the amount of time you're spending on your goals and maximize your focus on those goals, like no social media, no video games, none of those stuff, no entertainment. I would say the only source of entertainment that's acceptable is books and like socializing, because these tend to be much lesser distracting and take much lesser amount of your time, I think. Also, the reason why I say wake up before 7 a.m. is because this is like an act of discipline. For you to get 8 hours of sleep and wake up at 7 a.m., you have to sleep by 11 p.m., which is hard for many people because they're probably playing like Call of Duty or League of Legends through the night or something like that. It's fine, I'm guilty of doing this as well. So yeah. Additionally, I don't care what you say, but morning hours are really peaceful and it's when I'm personally the most productive. I know you might say you're like a night owl or something, but I feel like many people haven't tried waking up in the morning either. So just try it for like a week and see if it works. If not, I would say you can push it up to like 8 a.m. But the thing is, you don't want to be sleeping so late that like once you wake up, you feel like trash, because that's like something you don't want during monk mode. Additionally, the reason why I include meditation and exercise is because they're really good ways to calm your mind and also really good ways to help you focus. Alright, so now that I've like introduced what all the zones are about, here are some guidelines I would say you should follow, but you don't have to follow them. So number 1, I would highly recommend keeping the same amount of light zone and monk mode weeks, especially if you're not someone who's used to working so much. If you're used to working a lot, I'm pretty sure you can like cut down on your light zone weeks a little bit more. But if you're someone who's not used to working a lot, keep the same monk mode and light zone weeks. So let's say you're doing 6 weeks of monk mode, also put 6 weeks of light zone, and the rest of your weeks are going to be mid zone. The way I'd recommend doing monk mode is at least 2 weeks non-stop. And the reason why I say this is because monk mode is designed for you to achieve maximum focus and efficiency, and once you start monk mode, it does take like a couple of days for you to ease in because of all the restrictions. just because like we're all tend to hyperstimulate ourselves outside these type of like intense periods of focus. So you're already losing like 2 to 3 days while trying to get into that focus state. So once you get into that focus state, you might as well just remain there, work really hard, and once you're done with it, take about 3 to 4 days of like light zone days, right? And that will make you feel much more rested after the light zone days. Now I wouldn't recommend more than like 4 or 5 days, because that again could encourage bad habit if you do it for too long. So once you're done with 4 to 5 days of light zone, you can go back to monk mode if you want, or you can just return to mid zone. Alright, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm really proud of this technique. This is more of a long-term strategy, but I think it'll be useful for many people just to know how you're spending your time as well, like if you use this, because you know exactly how many weeks you're spending in each of the zones. And yeah, I hope this helps you, and peace.